Zuby's Pandemic Lessons. Zuby, good guy, rapper and commentator, posted on Twitter 20 things I've learned or had confirmed about humanity during the pandemic. And I thought we'd just go through them because there are some interesting points and just have a nice chat about them. So, number one, most people would rather be in the majority than be right. I mean, that's a timeless truth, isn't it?
Mm.
It's so obvious that people are total conformists. If the YouGov polling is anything to go by, then people are total sheep, which is disturbing. Number two, at least 20% of the population has strong authoritarian tendencies which will emerge under the right conditions. I'm reasonably sure this is actually, this is based on a study that was done a while ago. Apparently it's 30% of the population at any one point could basically go super fascist. It's like, yeah, as we can see. You know, loads of people are pro-lockdown. It's mad. Number three, the fear of death is only rivaled by fear of social disapproval. The latter could be stronger. Seems to tie in with number one. Anything you agree with there? Disagree with?
No, don't think I can.
I mean, the thing as well is like fear of death. Well, social disapproval is in form of a sort of social death. So it's essentially the same thing in many ways.
Well, I mean, John Stuart Mill described it as worse than, I think, talking about like capital punishment from the state. Because it goes more deeply. It can infect every part of your life, and you've got to live with it.
And it can go on forever, yeah. Propaganda is just as effective in the modern day as it was 100 years ago. Access to limitless information has not made the average person any wiser. That's so totally true, isn't it? That's so obviously true. Like, it's scary watching... And yesterday we covered how the scientists knew they were propagandizing in the same way that totalitarian regimes do, and they did it anyway, even though they themselves called it unethical. And Zuby's right. The propaganda is just as effective now as it was when it was invented. No question of it, in my opinion. Anything and everything we can will be politicized by the media, government, and those who trust them. That's correct. Again, these are just statements of fact, aren't they? Many politicians and large corporations will gladly sacrifice human lives if it is conducive to their political and financial aspirations. Had your vaccine yet?
I'm more interested in the facts. You remember when they closed down the country and you had... It was weird, because the fact that you closed down in the name of like saving lives, and then you end up, obviously, with the unintended consequences of people having their lives ruined.
Yep.
And then the fact that they're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, that's not a concern at all. You don't see politicians talking about that.
No, that's because it would rather undermine the messaging, wouldn't it?
Well, I should mention, I have seen one or two MPs mention that, so I'll say central government. Don't say that.
Well, yeah. But not just that, though. The fact that the Labour Party were in favour of lockdowns when it was something the government are doing is mad, because like the opposition should surely oppose in some ways, at least in some. Like, I mean,
isn't that kind of the point of being in the opposition?
Yeah, I mean, I would have guessed, but what do I know? Once they have made up their mind, most people would rather commit to being wrong than admit they're wrong. This is Mark Twain's famous adage. It's easier to fool a man than persuade him that he's been fooled. That's completely true. I've noticed this myself. I guess there's something about the pride of knowing something or thinking you know something, and the humiliation that follows from that pride after being demonstrated to be wrong. It's easier to block than to reconsider your own position. Humans can be trained and conditioned quickly and relatively easily to significantly alter their behaviours for better or worse. That seems like it's true. I see. Was it Chris Whitty's? There are 3 reasons I'm going to wear a mask or whatever after the mandates have been lifted, and I just saw this being published in like the Independent and stuff. 3 reasons why we should wear our masks after the government stops making us do it. That's not what he said, but it's all a part of this conditioning.
We also had the communist millionaire being like, yeah, we should keep lockdowns going forever.
Yes, but the point is, loads of people are in favour of this. Loads of people essentially haven't done any particular thinking about it and are just going to do what they're told. He's absolutely right. They can be conditioned quickly and apparently easily to alter their behaviours, and they have. And the communists know this, which is part of the reason that the behavioural psychologists on the Sage Advisory Committee, the communists, are there. They're not epidemiologists, they're not virologists, they're not experts in viruses. They're here to talk about human behaviour and how that can be modified, and they have a vision in mind.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise, all those people are communists.
Exactly, they absolutely are.
Specialise in manipulating people. Yeah, of course you're a commie.
Yeah. When sufficiently frightened, most people will not only accept authoritarianism, but will demand it. And this is how, tying into the previous one, how people have been easily conditioned to alter their behaviours. Tell them that there's something terrifying going on and they're going to personally be affected by it. And therefore, suddenly they're all like, yeah, everyone's got to wear a mask. We're going to have lockdowns. We can never ease up. Ooh. It's constant.
And you see it with the people who still live in fear.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to mention names, but like I know of couples who essentially S themselves and are still in the position of like, I don't want to go out and meet people and whatnot because fear of the virus. And I'm just looking at them like, what?
My wife's nan is in that position. She's been double vaccinated and she still won't go out. It's like, why?
Was she an anti-vaxxer?
No, she's been vaccinated twice. You know, yeah. But it's just fear, and it's fear because it's constantly in the media cycle, and so people's like understanding of the world is filtered through this prism, and obviously they just think, God, people are dying in the streets, the hospitals are overcrowded, everyone's about to die of COVID, when that's just not the case.
Which is why the politicians and the people in the central government are able to go out and have sex with their women who are not their wives, or go out and not wear masks where they've told everyone else to wear them. Because they know.
Kay Burley going to parties, even though she's the one going, social distance and mask mandates and all this.
Yeah, they've assessed the threat, they know what the threat is, and they've acted accordingly, but they tell other people not to do that and instead to act over the top.
Yeah. People who are dismissed as conspiracy theorists are often well-researched and simply ahead of the mainstream narrative. Man, isn't the Wuhan lab leak theory proof of that?
I watched Johnny Harris. I think I've mentioned him before. He used to work at Vox.
Yeah,
and he made like the Borders series and whatnot. He's an interesting YouTuber, but he's very left-leaning, and he made a video recently talking about exactly that. And you could see the light bulbs going off in his head. Like, he still has to couch it in the language of like right-wing bad. Like, he keeps blaming Trump for saying Chinese virus, for example, and like linking that to hate crimes. It's like, no, that literally comes from the Chinese saying it's an American virus. You know this. Why would you?
But also the hate crimes are not being done by Trump supporters.
Yeah, it's not happening. But the
no, there are hate crimes happening, just not by Trump supporters.
Yeah. So the like, you can see some of the light bulbs going off in his head where he's like, wait, why did the progressives censor this? Why are we the guys who are like, yeah, we can't talk about this because Trump's promoted it?
Baddies?
Yeah, you could see like some light bulbs going on, and it's like, yeah.
But yeah, the conspiracy theorists, obviously conspiracy theorist is just a dismissive, thought-terminating cliche. You are someone whose ideas are so loopy and ridiculous that I'm not even going to engage. It's like, sure, but they do have a good point that you've got the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and then the exact kind of disease they are studying emerges in the same city.
We need a new term, because conspiracy theorist, it's a thing.
It's been redeemed.
But like, no, I mean like, when the Chinese Communist Party conspire to do something, yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. That doesn't mean it's false. And pretty much
That's
everything
true.
the communists do is a conspiracy against the Chinese people.
Pretty much, yeah. I guess we do need a new word for it. But anyway, the conspiracy reality is a good suggestion by John. Well, that's the thing.
Nice.
You know, you can deal in conspiracy theories or you can deal in conspiracy facts. And it is a fact that, say, the Chinese Communist Party conspires against their own people, obviously. You know, every Communist Party does. But I do think there is something to a lot of the conspiracy theories that we are hearing, but I mean, obviously we can't challenge that any further if we want this to go up on YouTube. So, moving on. Most people value safety and security more than freedom and liberty, even if said safety is merely an illusion. That's true. That's not a new innovation either. Who was it? Benjamin Franklin, I think, who made that point. Do you value safety over liberty or get neither?
Well, you should get neither.
No, you should get neither, yeah.
I
hate the fact that he added a should there.
I might be wrong.
No, I think he did. But I mean, good observation. True. Still, hedonic adaptation occurs in both directions, and once inertia sets in, it is difficult to get people back to normal. That's true. Once the machine of the state is set in motion, and it's put into everyone's minds that this is what we're doing, and
deserve neither.
Deserve, right? That, yeah. And I object to his framing, but we'll talk about it another time. Anyway, once everything gets moving, because of the sort of low information and low amount of critical thinking that goes into what's going on, it means that you still get people going, oh, we have to save the NHS. Like, the NHS is fine. The NHS is not going...
From what? There's no...
Well, that's the point, But the inertia is set in, and now the machinery is moving, and there's so much weight behind it. Even if you sit there with someone who's like a dyed-in-the-wool sort of like COVID apocalyptic believer, and you explain to them, look, it's just not the apocalypse going on. Very few people are dying now.
Yeah, here's the numbers of
NHS is just
hospitalization.
fine. Most people are vaccinated at this point. 65% of the population or something like that. And yet they'll still just default back to, yeah, but I've been told to become afraid. And so the inertia of it continues. A significant percentage of people thoroughly enjoy being subjugated. Yeah, they also enjoy being the subjugators. Those very same people, I think. But that is annoying, isn't it? When the left are like, oh, the oppressive state. Lock me down harder, daddy. Why are you in favour of lockdowns? It's the state being oppressive. It actually does affect the poorest worst. And if you're like some sort of race identitarian, you'd be like, well, that disproportionately affects the black and brown people then because they're disproportionately poor. So how could you be in favour of lockdowns from your own logic?
Because we want to be in charge.
Exactly, because we want that power to be available, because one day we see our revolution coming, and once we get it, that'll be a totally legitimate thing for us to do. Can't stand it. Anyway, the science has evolved into a secular pseudo-religion for millions of people in the West. This religion has little to do with science itself, and often it's completely flying in the face of science itself.
Well, that's actually a good development of this last couple of years.
Is it?
Because
Scientism.
Yeah, I mean, people have always hated. I'm gonna say Neil deGrasse Tyson is one of the worst people for this. I mean, he's not trying to be bad, I don't think, but the way people like him have characterized science as like
fetishizing science.
Yeah, it's been really cringe and bad, and everyone who knows anything about science has been like, don't do this.
Yeah.
And now it's been that view has been destroyed, I think, for most people.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, sure, in the left, you've still got people being like, trust the science, which is just like, fuck up. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, there is no such thing as trusting the science. Like, if you say that, you're being anti-scientific. That's a deliberate faith-based perspective on what should be essentially the process of critical thinking. But yeah, absolutely, science has evolved into this secular pseudo-religion because you always say it's like, this guy is saying on the internet that he's discovered something all these epidemiologists didn't discover. It's like, have you considered they might be deliberately hiding something from you? You're assuming, like the communist woman, playing on the idea that, oh, well, I'm just a neutral, impartial scientist. Don't believe you. At all. I mean, you're a communist, for a start. But the point is, anyone familiar with the philosophy and history of science will not sit there and say, right, the science is incontrovertible or settled, or the method is fixed, or something like this. The question of like scientific paradigms and how they move forward and things like that is very much up in the air, and no one is saying
just how strong is the evidence.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's never settled. It's just it's strong that it's probably this.
Yeah, but even then you get the problems of like the paradigm you're operating within. It affects the things you look for, and so you and we've got good examples of this, missing things that are true and scientifically relevant that were just not seen because of the way you look at the thing. And so there's no saying, oh, the science. It's like, no, like that's just not a thing, really, right? There is no one science. But anyway, most people care more about looking like they're doing the right thing rather than actually doing the right thing. Straight out of the Bible, that. Jesus says, don't pray in public, pray in private. But he's not wrong. Most people, I mean, that's what virtue signaling is.
All the leftists do pray in public.
They do. And if you have to signal your virtue, then you're not being virtuous, because virtue signals itself. Politics, the media, science, and the healthcare industries are all corrupt to varying degrees. Scientists and doctors can be bought as easily as politicians. This is a long-term concern of the left, incidentally, with science. Right? And you see this all the time. Oh, well, Big Pharma or the cigarette companies or alcohol companies paid some scientists to do a study, and they came out with a study that supports the conclusions that the alcohol and tobacco companies had already come to the conclusion on. So this is faulty, it is suspicious, it is obviously riddled with bias, and it's because of the fact that these scientists have been paid to do these things. And it's like, yeah. It's like, now, apply that to vaccines and COVID. Oh, no, I'm a Pfizer guy. I've got my Moderna vaccine. It's like, do you think there's not the same sort of goddamn interest in play for some reason?
Well, a better example would be the Wuhan lab, where it's just like, well, we have the names, we have the guys, we have their contracts in which they were clearly partisan. In the same way that you're like this tobacco scientist who works for Camel isn't trustworthy. Why is Peter Daszak, the guy who works with the Wuhan lab, trustworthy?
Exactly. And I mean, say politics and the media and healthcare industries are also corrupt. Well, duh. But I mean, yeah, that's absolutely true, obviously. But the thing I think is worth hammering on is the fact that scientists are not simply neutral actors. And this is the left's position 4 years ago when they started saying this. And you got people the sort of new atheist style scientists who are like, no, science is objective and neutral. It's like, sure, ideally it's supposed to be. But when you have such obviously political and, dare we say, corrupt people running around under the label of science, you can't really assert that. And think you're standing on firm ground. Anyway, 18. If you make people comfortable enough, they will not revolt. You can keep millions docile as you strip their rights by giving them money, food, and entertainment. Obviously true, and again, not a new observation, but he's not saying that each one of these is new. He's saying these are definitely true, and that is definitely true. This is the bread and circuses of the modern era, as the Romans did it to keep the plebs in line, as they were taking away their land and giving it to massive landowners who used slaves to farm the soil instead of the Roman working man. They just gave them a free grain dole and some entertainment to watch. And we've got the same thing now. Stay at home, get your free government money, watch Netflix, be quiet. They're busy remaking the world without you. And I see number 20 is easier to convince a person they've been fooled rather than to fool them than convince them they've been fooled. I'm sure he said that.
Pretty sure he posted that.
Yeah, so, okay, there's a repeat there. But I thought these were all really good points, and I think that Zuby made them very, very well. And these are things that I think are demonstrably true. And that's why I thought I'd cover them, just because this was good. Good stuff. Completely correct. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.